Hello, everyone. Welcome to Live with OKclarity.com. This is a live experience, and tonight I'm going to bring you some clarity on how to use mindful breathing using at all into the chat at any time. I may not acknowledge those questions until we hit that 15-minute mark, but please feel free to drop questions in at any point. So again, welcome. I just want to give a really quick disclaimer that experiences a lot of adults in their daily life, and even some sort of a trauma that you have now or trauma that you've experienced in long past can also affect where you are today. And trauma, it does, in the way I explain it, it lives in our physical body. And we experience that deep-seated trauma and anxiety within our physical presence. But there are other ways that people will experience trauma in their lives. And that means that on a day-to-day, if you're somebody that has racing thoughts, if you're somebody that experiences self-doubt, if you have poor self-worth, and you struggle to feel connected to the people in your life, the people you care about, using mindfulness as a tool, whether or not you've experienced what we would say is technically trauma, I hope that this is all going to be really useful information for you. And for me, working as a trauma therapist, just wanted to share a little bit of information sort of in the population in the United States. We know that 68% of adults will experience something that qualifies as trauma at some point in their lives. It's a very large percentage. And if we look just specifically at women as a population in the United States, 1 out of every 6 women is going to experience a sexual, unfortunately high, being a survivor of trauma is going to be a high instance. And how trauma can affect us also is things that have happened in the world in the past few years. Coming out of COVID, that has been a traumatic experience for a lot of people. And, just looking at the state of things that are going on in the world around us, things can be traumatizing for either for ourselves or for people that we know. So again, knowing that whether you knew what you're experiencing today was trauma or not, it's definitely something that is very prevalent. And that's why this topic, specifically mindfulness, meditation, and using a mantra, is something that will hopefully be helpful to everyone. And for me, I know that I heard a lot about mindfulness and years ago, and I was a little bit skeptical. I wasn't really sure that doing something as simple as breathing would actually be effective in my day-to-day life. And so I think I spent a few years not quite, using mindfulness and meditation the way I could have. But I know that for me, it sort of clicked when I was working as a hospital into me thinking about that stressful stuff during the time that I wanted to devote to my family. And so for me, knowing that, okay, I'm experiencing all this stuff at work and I don't want to take it with me, I needed to find a tool. And that's really where please feel free to stick those in the guided meditation, using mindful breathing. This is basically your portable Xanax. So anytime you're needing to bring down that stress or relax enough to fall asleep, when you would need that portable Xanax, you would use your guided meditation, use your mindful breathing, and use your mantra. And tonight is going to mesh together with that just perfectly. So hopefully that will give you some insight. So I think the way that we'll start is by learning how to do a basic mindful breath. And one easy way to make sure you're doing mindful breathing is to do a hand on your heart, and then take the other hand and put that over your lungs. And if you're not sure where that is exactly, lungs would be right over your abdomen. So hand on the heart and hand over the lungs. Now, the important part is that with the regular breathing, let's say, that we do in the day-to-day, we do a lot of this sort of huffing and puffing with the shoulders. And so when we do mindful breathing, imagine that hand over the lungs. That's like a balloon. And as you breathe in, instead of inhaling with your shoulders, you're going to fill up that part of your body like a balloon. And then when you do a mindful exhale, you're going to blow out that air and you're going to empty that balloon. So if you notice yourself going up and down instead of filling up your balloon and emptying your balloon, then you know that it's time not to maybe start over in frustration, but just to focus a little bit on correcting your mindful breath. Now, the reason that I wanted to incorporate the counting, and my clients find this to be really useful, is because the idea of clearing your mind, most of us can't do that. But what most of us can do is count and breathe. So let's do it together. And before we do the counting piece, it's going to be breathing in for 2 and out for 4. So let's do that together. You can shut your eyes if you'd like. Find a comfortable place, although you can do this anywhere. So let's breathe in for 2, 1, 2, and then out 2, 3, and 4. So in 1, 2, out 2, 3, 4, in 1, 2, and out 2, 3, 4. Now, if you'd like to count and breathe while I finish the rest of this talk tonight, please feel free. And if you'd rather just, listen and use this tool later, I invite you to do that as well. So, the reason, again, when we count and we inhale for 2 and we exhale for 4, the reason that that's really useful is that it's really hard to focus on stress. It's really hard to focus on what you have at work tomorrow if you're counting, right? Most of us can only stress or count, not do both at the same time. So that's why the counting, even if you are, practiced with mindfulness, that counting can always be an effective tool. Now, the other thing is about our thoughts. And as we breathing in and we breathing out, and maybe our thoughts drift away from the counting, this is one of those moments where if we're in our daily life, we might get frustrated. But mindfulness, we're going to imagine those thoughts slightly differently. And that is that we're not going to fight the thoughts. We're not going to focus on the thoughts, but we're also not going to be angry at ourselves for having those thoughts. So we're going to instead be very neutral to the thoughts that may creep into that counting. So I ask that when it can be helpful, just the inhale and the exhale. Now, when we started tonight, I did say that I was going to leave you also with a mantra. And the easiest way to find your mantra, which can be one thing or you can change day to day, is when you do mindful breathing, and going 3 rounds through is usually a good number. So that'd be 3 inhales, 3 exhales, doing the counting and breathing. That what you'll do, and you can shut your eyes if this is helpful, that before you come back to the present, and before you come back to your day, think of one sentence that you're going to need to hear the most. And you get to pick any sentence. That's the thing, right? This is for you, and you don't have to share your mantra with anyone. So if you are listening with me and you are noticing stress from your day, you're noticing a headache, you may be fearful of something coming up at a doctor's appointment, you're going to tell yourself that your mantra is going to be whatever you want and whatever you need the most. So for me today, I will share mine. And that is that I was feeling a little bit anxious about doing this live stream. And so my mantra to myself today was, Sara, you can do this. That's all it takes. And that means that when I've been anxious, whether that is through this conversation or at any other point with my week, I have taken a few breaths and said, Sara, you can do this, before I've opened my eyes. And doing that takes me away from the stress, drops me in the present moment, and I have that go-to, that mantra that I keep repeating to myself as often as needed. So I really hope that that has been some clarity for everyone that is new to mindfulness, and hopefully doing that simple inhale for 2, exhale for 4, that it's going to be a useful tool for you, and also very easy to explain. And if you've got kids at home, doing breathing techniques like this is a really, really great way to get everyone to be calm, whether that's calm from kids fighting or calm from, coming in from outside. I know a lot of classroom teachers will use mindfulness these days because it is something that is so effective at any age. So if anyone has any questions, whether that's about mindfulness or whether that's about trauma in general or the way that people experience it in their body, and you are on Instagram, please feel free to drop that in the chat. And I'll give it just a moment. And as that happens, I'll leave you with another tip, a free tip on mindfulness. And that is that it's also to remember that oftentimes it can be hard to notice and to relax our body, even enough to get to a place where that mindful breathing is effective. And you can do that by starting your day with mindfulness this way. If it may be hard for you to do in the moment, you can do a few breaths before you fall asleep while you're laying down at night, after we turn off the TV and we turn off our screens. That, minute or 2 there is a good opportunity. And the other time is to remember, like I said at the beginning, as cheesy as it may sound, it is your portable Xanax. It is your non-medicinal Xanax. And so whether that's using this after a meeting at work, or even running into the bathroom if you have a meeting or you have to give a speech and no one is going to really know what you're up to. So thanks again very much for joining me tonight and getting some clarity. My name again is Sara. I'm a social worker in California, and I hope that you will be able to make use of your mindfulness, your mindful breathing ground to start. Thanks again for everyone this evening. It's been wonderful. I look forward to talking with you again soon. Take care.